98 FM's Dublin Talks. Call 6797 981.
And good morning from Adrian Kennedy. How are you this morning? It's Tuesday, the 3rd of Nov, 2020, and we're here until midday today. And as always, a lot to get through on the programme. As you know, first off on the programme today, we have laws in place that make it mandatory for face masks to be worn on all public transport. And it seems that by and large, most people are complying. However, yesterday, a group of anti-maskers decided to give the two fingers to the public health warnings and boarded the Luas not wearing masks. Not only that, well, you'll hear in a second, it happened on the Red Line, Luas, yesterday evening, following a rally at the HSE's headquarters by groups opposed to public health restrictions. After they boarded the Luas without masks, some began mocking members of the public who were following the public health advice and wearing masks. Now, the video was streamed on Facebook Live by organisers of a protest called the Freedom Rally. In the videos, protesters could be seen walking up and down a busy Luas, chanting songs about face masks and waving tricolours. In another incident, a woman approaches the protesters to tell them to behave and to wear masks. One protester asks for a hug, to which the woman replied, "I don't want you to touch me," to which a protester asks, "Why?" Now, Luas were contacted about this, and this is the statement that the company issued. They said, an incident occurred this evening involving a group of people not wearing face coverings on board a Red Line tram. The Luas CCTV footage captured is high quality and is being passed to the Gardaí to assist them with their investigation into the incident. It is against the law to travel on Luas without wearing a face covering, with limited exemptions only. We thank the vast majority of Luas customers who cooperate and wear face coverings. Let's have a listen to just a little bit of the audio from that video of this crowd on the Luas yesterday evening. Have a listen to this.
Okay, get louder! And the lockdown! And the lockdown! Patience, sweat, easy, string off your face! Take the sweaty G-string off your face! I'm not here to hear the word with that bus! We can't hear the word with the bus! We're all here. I don't know you. Because what? I'm really busy here. 99%! Sing it, we are 99%! Guards are here, look.
This is the guards at a platform. They didn't board the Luas. There you go. That's our public transport yesterday evening on the Luas. And I want to get your reaction to this. What should be done to stop this happening again? Do we need harsher penalties to deal with people who flout mask wearing on public transport? We do already have fairly serious penalties. I don't know one person who's gotten a fine of $2,500 for not wearing a face mask on a Luas. Not one. Now, maybe these could be given a fine because, as I said from the Luas statement, the CCTV footage captured is high quality and has been passed to the Gardaí to assist them with their investigation. So maybe these people will be the first to be slapped with a fine. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm joined on the line by one of our local politicians who took to social media using the word disgraceful with that video. And it's Fine Gael TD Neil Richmond. Neil, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Disgraceful is the word you used.
Absolutely, Adrian. If you listen to the footage that you just played there, even if we weren't at the height of the world's largest pandemic for over a century, that sort of carry-on is absolutely disgusting. The language used, the boorishness, you're on public transport. Then when you bring into the fact that obviously they weren't wearing masks, they were taunting, they were coming from yet another one of these rallies that we seem to see on a weekly basis outside the Dáil. It's the same group of people. Now, we have seen arrests. We saw arrests following the rally that led into violence in Grafton Street a fortnight ago that they tried to do outside the Dáil. We saw a number of arrests at a previous rally, and obviously 136 fines were issued by the Gardaí during the first phase of lockdown. But really, this footage is so clear. I'm glad to hear that Luas has sent it on to An Garda Síochána, and I hope the real processes are followed, because none of us like these restrictions. None of us like being...
No, absolutely not, no.
But we all accept that it's there for a very good reason. It's happening in all other countries. It isn't a scam. And they carry on, and then you see it's thrown into anti-5G stuff, clear racist slurs, homophobic slurs. It's a really odious bunch of individuals that are using this pandemic just to spill out the same vile victory that they've been doing for years now.
They are a very small minority, and let's call a spade here. I mean, they're not attracting tens of thousands of people to their protests. There was under 100 from what I could see yesterday. So they are a minority of a minority, and some people believe they shouldn't be given any oxygen and no publicity at all.
No, but what we saw was quite worrying is that the numbers were steadily increasing at the protests as the restrictions were lifted, and the conspiracy theories have been floating around the internet, coming from England, coming from the US. But then when we turned the corner and unfortunately more restrictions were added in, the numbers have dropped away again. And of course, the Gardaí have more powers now. And it is one thing about not giving them oxygen, but it's also putting out there that this isn't right. This sort of behaviour isn't right. It shouldn't be condoned. And not only should it be criticised, but every effort should be made to stop it. Not just from the sheer fact that it's just simply not on. If you're having a dozen people coming onto the Luas shouting, not wearing masks, it's potentially a massive public health hazard as well.
OK, now obviously we know that we have laws in place that make it mandatory, for the time being at least, while we're dealing with this, to wear face coverings on public transport. You'd like to think that eventually that will be lifted in time. But when people have decided they don't want to wear a mask, are they not entitled to have that view?
They're entitled to have that view, but then they're not entitled to do certain things. They're not entitled to go into shops. They're not entitled to go on public transport. They're not entitled to attend various other public institutions unless they have a clear medical reasons. And there are people who have clear medical reasons that they can't wear masks, and we shouldn't assume most. And there's now badges that you can go in saying, like, I'm not wearing a mask for a good reason, and that's fair. But it's a public health thing. Some people don't like wearing seatbelts, but it's still the law. It not just protects them, it protects others. The mask doesn't stop you getting this virus, but it does reduce massively your ability to pass the virus onto someone else. Not wearing a mask is one of the most selfish things you can do, unless you have a very good reason to do so. And there are, as I said, a very small number. But simply putting out that you don't like it or it's restricting your civil liberties, there's lots of that. You can go down a very long path when you talk about civil liberties, when it's quite simply common sense. We're in the middle of a pandemic. It's the same the world over. Masks are proven to be an effective part, not the only thing, just part of stopping this. And the more we actually comply with the regulations, as much as we don't like it, trust me, Adrian, I'd love to go for a beer tonight, I'd love to meet my friends, I'd love to do lots of things, but the more we actually get involved in this and move towards hopefully getting all this R numbers and reproductive rates down, that we can start to bring back those semblances of normality, give the scientists the ability to work towards a vaccine and everything else. But protesting, and then really protesting in this manner, it was just such abuse. And I would hate to, never mind me being on the Luas, but I would hate if my wife or my kids being on that Luas as well, to have had to put up with that. But I must say, Adrian, every day walking outside the door, we see protests like this. And some of the vile language used, it's the same people that protested outside the court when Aaron Brady was sentenced for murdering Adrian Donoghue. It's the same people who've been going up and down protesting about, as I said, 5G and so many of the other conspiracy theories. It's a very nasty fringe, and it shouldn't just be dismissed. It should be taken on, and the punishment should be handed out where appropriate.
Do you want to see people get... I find myself getting angry when I look at that video. And the reason I do is I was interested yesterday to hear the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Tony Holohan, saying that cases in Dublin of COVID-19 are remaining stubbornly high. So we had 321 cases yesterday in Dublin alone, which is higher than we've had for a long time. And some people believe that it's this sort of behaviour, this sort of protest, and generally the stuff that we've seen on social media that goes against health advice has been in Dublin. Now, do you want to see people getting angry over this?
No, I don't think anger actually helps anything, but I want people to see that when people act like this, when people so brazenly flout the regulations, that there is a punishment. That those of us, the vast majority, like you and I, who respect the restrictions, don't necessarily like them or particularly happy about it, but we make the sacrifices. We're not seeing our friends, we're not seeing our family, we're not going to houses, we wear our masks, we work from home where we can. That when we're doing all the right things, it isn't this small minority who not only are being so disrespectful to the rules and An Garda Síochána and the Luas operators, but every single one of us. There's nurses and doctors working 12, 14-hour shifts, putting themselves at risk, and yet they have to come home and see footage of this on social media. It's absolutely disgusting behaviour. And what I want to see very clearly is that those people who, firstly, who act like this, that appropriate punishment is dished out in order to stem the tide of these protests. But secondly, and this is something that's really crucial, the conspiracy theories that are running wild on the internet, the Facebook groups, the people passing on through WhatsApp, sharing, saying like, oh, I've heard X, Y, and Z, or, you know, there's a great rumour going down, or sure, all this is made up, and it doesn't help, obviously, with the parallel election in America and some of the comments that are coming out as well as in the UK. But that's combating that sort of fake news and disinformation is something that's really important as well.
All right, so as regards that particular video where a number of people are very clearly identifiable, what do you want to see being done?
Well, I think it's not for me to decide, but I think there is absolutely a case for Gardaí to take action if they can identify them, to bring the proceedings. You know, it's not just that they're flouting the regulations in relation to masks, but it's clearly a public order offence as well. And I think we need to see this, just like we saw the protests, the very violent protests in Grafton Street leading to 11 arrests. I think people need to see that there are consequences for those who give the two fingers to the rest of us in society.
Fine Gael TD Neil Richmond, thank you very much indeed for talking to us. And I would love to hear from you on 6797981. You can text, you can WhatsApp, or you can send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. What is your reaction when you see, or even hear, you may not have seen it, but when you hear a video like this? In fact, it's on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Adrian K and Jeremy D. But when you see or hear a video like this filmed on the Luas yesterday evening, what is your reaction?
Okay, get louder! And the lockdown! And the lockdown! Patience, sweat, easy, string off your face! Take the sweaty G-string off your face! We can't hear a f***ing word with that bus! We can't hear a f***ing word with that bus!
I just know what you did.
We're all human.
I don't know you.
Because what?
I'm
really busy here. 99%. Singing we are 99%.
Guards are here, look. They're there. Yeah.
Right, there you go. That's just some of the audio from that video filmed on board a Luas tram yesterday evening. George thinks we need a no-nonsense approach to this.
Morning, Adrian. I think that Ireland should take the approach of the French and the Spanish. Ask no questions, let the guards just go in and get them.
Yep, a lot of people think that as well. I'd like to hear from you. Leonie, you're on 98 FM. How are you?
Hiya, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. What's your view on this? What do you think when you see videos like that?
I think whether they believe that there's a virus or not, or whatever what's going on in their heads, I think they still should be preparing themselves in case there is. Like what, they mightn't actually have the virus now, but they could get it by doing this. So how are they helping themselves? How are they making this look like it's okay to do it?
Because they obviously don't believe it's a load of rubbish. That's really the bottom line here. They believe it's a load of rubbish.
Yeah, well, they'll know all about it when they get it themselves. And they end up not wearing a mask. It'll be an oxygen mask in a hospital.
I know, but they don't believe they'll get it. That's the reality of it. They think that this is all a big conspiracy and all of the rubbish that's circulated around over the last couple of months. And yeah, I know your point is that, they may feel differently if somebody they love gets it, or somebody they love gets very, very sick from it, or, God forbid, somebody they love dies from it.
Yeah, exactly. So they're going around and they're what's causing the problem now for the numbers rising.
Yeah, and I quoted a couple of minutes ago, the figures here in Dublin in particular are staying stubbornly high, 321 cases yesterday alone. The rest of the country, the rates are dropping, but not in Dublin. And a lot of people think, in fact, I had this conversation earlier on with somebody, that if the figures don't go down in Dublin, we're going to be left in level 5 and the rest of the country will be able to get on with their lives.
Yeah.
That's something to be fearful of. I dread the thought of us remaining in level 5 in Dublin for the whole of Christmas because the figures don't come down.
Exactly. I just think it's appalling. I think they're not thinking about other people's lives. They're selfish people. That's what they are. They're very selfish. They don't care. And obviously, they haven't came across someone they know that has it, and they think what they're doing now, they're creating freedom or whatever what this thing is about it. But at the end of the day, they're just making themselves look like bigger filths.
I think a lot of people would agree with you. Fiona, you're shaking with anger.
Oh my God, I'm so annoyed. I'm a stay-at-home a mother, and so I'm not even getting out to work. I've been stuck at home now since March, stuck to all the rules, and I live in a village called Longwood in Meath. So there is no, to go 5 kilometres from my house, there is literally nowhere. It's, there's not very far you can go. And these people are so uneducated. It's so unfair, and I don't think they care whether it's a Luas, the COVID. It's just an excuse to go out and have, a riot, and intimidate people. And I don't think there's anything that can really be done with them, because there's just they're in groups, they're in numbers, and they're they're intimidating. I think if you were to try and approach them, you'd be they'd laugh in your face.
One woman actually did try to approach them. She approached the protesters to tell them to behave and to wear masks. One protester asks for a hug, and the woman says, "I don't want you to touch me," and the protesters asks why.
I'll be honest with you, at the start of all this, I was kind of one that did say, I'm not wearing the mask, and I don't like wearing the mask.
None of us do. None of us do. No.
But it's what you have to do, and I'm from Dublin, and my parents are from Dublin. I haven't seen them in months, and and I'm actually afraid to go to Dublin because of the numbers, like what you were saying, they're not coming down, But I just think that the enforcement isn't there. I don't think they can ever really...
Is that what the problem is here? In that video, you can see them going past Gardaí on a platform at one of the stops on the Luas, and the guards didn't even get on the Luas. They just...
I don't think the money's there to be... I had to go, for essential business from Longwood to Dublin to Mullingar last week, and not one checkpoint did I meet. So that's a good kind of 100k, And so I don't think it's the guards' fault. I just think the money's not there. But I also do think that these people are so intimidating and so uneducated that and it's not about COVID. If it's Patrick's Day, it's the same thing. If it's any excuse, it's any excuse, So I have to say, if they did come down with it, I wouldn't have much sympathy for them. But if they're spreading it, then that's the problem.
Yeah, that is the problem. And I said, if they might feel very differently if one of their grannies got it.
I don't know if they would, though. I don't know if they would, Adrian.
Yeah, maybe not.
I actually don't, because they couldn't care. If this is what they're doing, then they couldn't care, Because if you cared, you wouldn't. I assume. It's uneducated again. It's back to like common sense.
All right, Fiona, thanks very much indeed. A huge reaction coming into this on 6797981. You can text, you can WhatsApp, or you can do what Mark did and send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98.
I have to say, Adrian, pure scumbags. The cameras should be able to catch up the images there, pass it to the guards, because these people are just taking the piss now, especially out of the health service. Pure scumbags, putting everybody's health at risk. And the guards should come down heavily on them. Put them in prison. Imprison them. End of story.
Right. I'd like to hear from you. 6797 981.
The sound of the city from Balbriggan to Blanchardstown.
This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
And we're here until midday today. Our telephone number is 6797 981. You can text, you can WhatsApp, or you can send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. This is Sam.
Hi, Adrian. I'm just wondering, that guy you had on there, he's saying that people who have the view of not wearing a mask are not entitled to do certain things. Well, I'm just wondering then, if our laws are meant to be so strict on wearing masks and so forth, then I know from my own personal experience, right? My grandfather, he's in his 70s. He doesn't wear a mask. He never wears a mask. He doesn't even wear a face shield. And he travelled over to London at the weekend, and there wasn't a word said to him. Nothing. He wasn't even stopped at the airport. And Ireland is in level 5 lockdown. The UK is in level 5 lockdown, and he got over no problem. Now, I'm sure he probably had to wear a mask on the plane, but that was it. You know what I mean? He would have walked into the airport with no mask on and not a thing said. So, you know what I mean? None of it makes sense, Adrian. Thanks anyway. I love the show. Bye.
Thanks very much indeed, Sam. 6797 981 is our telephone number. I'm looking at some posts that are going online as we're talking and having this conversation, not on our page, on other pages. 98 FM are lying. What are we lying about? Which part of this conversation are we telling a lie about? Are we lying about a large group on Luas yesterday evening chanting and shouting and not wearing face masks? Is that a lie? No. Don't know what lies we're actually telling. Harvo, you're on 98 FM. How are you?
How are you doing, Adrian?
Good, thank you. What did you want to say on this?
After looking at that video online this morning, the first thing that kind of comes to head is it's a complete and utter spit in the face to all of those people who are abiding by the rules, and it's a spit in the face to the frontline workers as well. You got people who are staying home from work. The Luas line to and from town yesterday was empty when I was going to work yesterday. So you've got the majority of the population who are doing their best to try and keep this virus at bay. It's an unknown virus. Nobody has all the answers. But you've got these people who are just ignorant and uneducated, and they just don't. Probably the best thing to do for these people is to bring them into an IC unit where you've got people who are actually dying from this virus to show them that it's real.
How do you do that? How do you do that? Because let me read a message. I have to read this. This is just classic. Here's what it says. These anti-maskers are right. People who don't wear masks get bullied all the time. We don't want your vaccines. We don't want your hospital beds. This is not a pandemic. There is no deadly virus. How do you get through to a moron like that?
Well, you've just said it there. They're absolute morons, They're uneducated.
Oh, sorry, there's more to it. Wait till you hear this. It's a load of bull fed to these pro-maskers by mainstream media. We know the government are corrupt. We know RTE is state-sponsored. What are these people not getting? How do you get through to somebody like that?
Unfortunately, there's a small majority that you don't.
Well, it's a small minority, yeah. A very, very, very small minority.
But it only takes one bad apple in the barrel to ruin the bunch. And these people are going around with no face masks on, intimidating people. Having a look at that on the Luas yesterday afternoon, I feel sorry for those people who were riding the Luas with their masks on, having to watch and listen and breathe the same air as these people.
Yeah, okay. So, but your point is you just can't get through to people like that.
Well, I mean, do a little bit what the guy in Russia did: 5 years or $5,000 if you're caught out during lockdown. I don't know how we would. I don't know how we would police it, because at the minute we're just kind of like a nation of snowflakes where they're out beating their chest saying no mask, no mask. But when you get the guards to come in and try and move them on, they're being accused of being heavy-handed. So it's a catch-22 situation.
Yeah, and we remember the situation on Grafton Street where the Gardaí did move in and they were accused of being heavy-handed. So they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't.
So
I mean, my thinking on it is, looking at that video, they would have loved the Gardaí to get on that Luas and drag them all off, because they would think they'd get great publicity out of it.
Yeah, everything is recorded, everything is going live. And they'll use that then as evidence to say that the guards are being heavy-handed. It's a vicious circle with some of these anti-maskers, and to be quite honest with you, I don't know what the solution would be.
No, and I don't myself. That's the problem. What I do worry about, though, is particularly, I live in Dublin, I work in Dublin. Dublin's my home, and I am very concerned that yesterday the chief medical officer was saying we've a problem in Dublin. The case numbers in Dublin are not coming down like they are in the rest of the country, and that worries me, because I fear that if this continues, Dublin will be left behind the rest of the country again.
Yes, it's an absolute possibility the way it's going at the minute, and that video from yesterday is absolute evidence that just some people are just not taking it serious. And for all of the time and effort that everybody has put in the last 6 or 8 months to try and restrict the spread of the disease, you've got a handful of people like this going out. And again, one of your callers said it, it's just down to complete uneducation and ignorance. They just do not. It's almost just a rebellion. They just want to be seen to be rage against the machine. Just to go against what the government is saying. Fair enough, we all know what's going on in the government and whatnot, and we all have our opinions on it. But come on, this is a world pandemic. They all have TVs at home. Surely they can see what's going on everywhere else.
Yeah, it's not just Ireland.
No, it's not just here. So how can it be the government trying to pull the wool over the eyes when it's happening in every other country in the world? All
right, stay there for 1 second, Harvey. Let me have a listen to this WhatsApp voice note from Sinead.
These anti-maskers, seriously. How come they were even allowed to get on the Luas without face mask on? There wasn't only 1 or 2 of them by the sounds of the video. Where's the so-called security that's meant to be on the Luas? We're not allowed to go to our nannies. We're not allowed to have anybody in our home. We're not allowed to go 5k outside our house. But yet these can jump onto a Luas with no mask on, screaming and shouting their opinions everywhere. Everyone has opinions. If everyone went around shouting all their opinions, to be war. Seriously, something really needs to be done about these anti-maskers. They're getting away with murder. 1 rule for them, 1 rule for another. Ridiculous. All right,
Sinead. You see, one of the risks is, and this is the problem, if the Gardaí had have gotten on that Luas yesterday and dragged them all off and it all being videoed, it's just making martyrs of them. Stacey is sick after seeing the video.
Adrian, that absolute weapons them people, I swear to God, do them better to go out and get a job or even go and do a bit of community work. It seems to me that they have nothing better to be doing than out protesting about the lockdown. Just stay in so we can end the lockdown and we can all have a good Christmas. I'm absolutely sick of it.
Where am I going now? Jade, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Jade?
Good.
Your mum actually had COVID-19.
Yeah.
And how was she and how is she?
Well, she's gone now, but she had it to be honest, she went to the doctors with a pain in her leg. And when she got to the doctors, she coughed because she has emphysema. And they said you have to go for COVID-19 test. So she went and got the test. So I rang them up after she got the test to ask for the results because I was afraid because she's very bad lungs and she has to get an injection every month for her emphysema. So when I rang up for the test, they told me they wouldn't have it. They wouldn't have it back. And can you hear me?
Yeah, can you?
They wouldn't have it back, and I said I just wanted to see it in black and white because I knew my ma's lungs was very bad, and I was just thinking of the worst. So they told me they hadn't got it back, and I was like, "How did you understand? And how did you say she has COVID-19?" They said so. With then, my mum had the COVID-19 in her room for 2 weeks. Stay in. Me or our grandchildren wasn't allowed in there. I had to leave her in a room. I had to leave her in a room for 2 weeks, feed her going in and out, but she had no symptoms of her at all. But I was watching her just in case, because she has got very bad lungs, thinking there was something going to happen to her. But for the whole 2.5 weeks, my mum sat in that room and wasn't allowed near any of us. There wasn't a thing wrong with her. So, and sometimes I think it's more mentally as well. It's the way people is going to be left. And still to this day, I've been watching her and there's not a thing wrong with her. Now, I know people have their own opinions, and I know some people, it is like people, Gareth, if they're sick, like some people can be very sick and be very bad with it. But people out yesterday, I seen it on Facebook myself, they're out fighting for everybody who's losing businesses and small businesses. And as they say, it's one rule for us.
Jade, I don't believe that, to be honest with you, because I don't think half of them even have a job.
They do have a job, and I tell you how they have a job. They're fine. You asked me, but did I agree with you on the Luas before I answered the phone call? And I just said, yeah, to answer. Where's the pandemic? Where's all the dead people falling? It's corrupt that's going on in this country, nothing else. And you know what's going on, because you weren't going to put me on there if I would have told you.
Sorry, I don't. Firstly, Jade,
I think it's fake.
Jade, firstly, Jade, stop shouting.
Where's all the people dying? Where's the testers? I was away on holidays, come back to Dublin Airport, you're grand. They don't know.
Jade, Jade,
you know what's going on.
Shouting.
It's corrupt.
Stop shouting.
Corrupt.
No, I'm not going to talk to you if you're not going to stop shouting. You're off the air now. Nobody can hear you. She's still shouting on the line there. Listen, still shouting away there. I'm not going to listen to this if she's not going to stop shouting. Okay? I don't mind listening to people's conversations as long as you stop shouting. She's still shouting. Listen.
These are people.
No, there's she. I'm not even listening to her shouting. Jade, if you want to have a civilised conversation, I'll talk to you. But if you're going to keep shouting, I'm not going to talk to you. She's after hanging up the phone. That's what you're dealing with. I'm trying to have a civilised conversation, but I won't be shouted at like that. Tony, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Tony?
How's it going, Adrian? How are things?
Grand, thank you. A bit of a headache, but yeah, go on. What did you want to say?
I think I nearly have one myself.
By the way, she just said, where are all the dead people? What an absolute obnoxious insult.
I think the people of I think the families of the people who are deceased would disagree with her.
I'm about to talk to one in a second. Sorry, what I was going to say is, what an absolutely vile, obnoxious, horrible insult to the 1,900 people plus in this little small country of ours who have died. And Tony, I'll come back to you in a second. Gary, your uncle is actually somebody who died of COVID-19. Go on, Gary.
I don't want to talk about my uncle, if that's okay. What I want to say is this. I got stopped by a police officer yesterday on my way over to my mum, who's 80-odd years of age, who was in floods of tears because she couldn't go to a funeral because of everything that's going on. And this guard made me feel like the lowest of the low. I was really open and honest with him. I said, I'm breaking the restrictions. I self-isolate because of my mother. I don't go out. I've become a hermit. And he made me feel so low. And I know he's doing his job or whatever, but I just looked at him and I said, look, you want me to turn my car around? I'm sorry for crying. I'll turn my car around. See these idiots. And that's gobshite you just had on the air there now. How dare she make a statement like that when there's over 1,000 people have lost their lives?
Sorry, Gary, nearly 2,000 people were. Our figure is over 1,900 people in the Republic of Ireland have lost their lives. Not to mention another 500 plus up north. So nearly 2,500 people on this little island of ours are dead over this thing.
The way I look at it with this lot, right? We have the right to protest and assembly in this country.
Correct.
The majority of the people that do it peacefully in some manifestation. Even the water protesters back in the day, it wasn't jumping on and intimidating people. She who shall not be named accosting a man outside the custom house he must have been in the 70s, telling him to take his mask off. This is the type of absolute moronic fool that you're dealing with. But what I think is, look, I don't give two tosses what they think about me. I don't care what they say to me. And I think, as a nation, we don't. But it's what they're doing. It's how they're flaunting this. And I think, like, If they want to start standing up...
But let me ask you, Gary, I've just gotten a message in here a second ago, okay? And this is what the message says. Nobody is dying. Nobody is sick. That's the reality. We're not in a pandemic. 1,900 old people who were already on death's door.
That's beautiful, isn't it?
What do you say? How do you deal with that?
How do you answer that, Adrian, without first of all getting 98 down to the trouble by using bad language on my part? Well, number two, look at what you're dealing with here, Adrian. I'm trying my best here.
Okay, but then answer me this question, Gary. Do we just ignore these people?
Well, you see, here's the thing. I go into a lot of schools when I do talks. That's what I do. You know about my past, Adrian. So that's what I do. And I'm all for a person loving themselves for being them. And I deal with a lot of bullying and stuff like that. And what I always try to say is just kind of ignore the bully, and that's kind of it's hard thing to do. But this, it's different. I would be saying, look, ignore these fools. But at the same time, what I was trying to point out was, I watched that video, and they go by a stop at the Luas. Now, I'm not going to start bad-mounting the Garda because they've enough on their plate. But my God, I mean, they didn't even board and let their presence be known. But on the same day, one of their force made me feel like utter crap. And
look,
being honest with him and saying to him, I'm going to my mother's house.
Yeah, I understand how you feel, and I do get that some guards just don't have any cop on. Tony, I'm sorry for keeping you waiting. I just wanted to talk to Gary. You had a friend actually delete you on social media because you spoke out against these protesters.
I did, Adrian, the last 24 hours when the video went up online, and the said person was sprouting up about the protest and everything, and I'd actually just tagged it onto our page and said, look, here's what here's your buddies having a great old time on the Luas. And I was called uneducated and idiotic. I'm a sheep for following everyone else, blah 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 blah, and then deleted so I couldn't respond to the message. But in all fairness, again, that woman that was on just before you talked to myself, and I've had the virus myself back in April. I talked to you before about it. This type of idiotic and type of stuff intimidating people and all. Like on the Luas there, look, as I said, like Gary there, I'm not going to badmouth the likes of the Gardaí or anything like that. But, you know, these people that was a public order offence.
Yes, and maybe that's what they can get them on. I don't know. But there's certainly enough video evidence. You can see all the faces clearly.
Look, I've said this numerous times to friends of mine, Adrian, that this COVID-19 pandemic has given rude people an excuse to be obnoxious.
Yeah, I can't argue with you there. 6797 981 is our telephone number. A lot coming in on this. We'll take a very quick break. We're back in just a moment.
The sound of the city, from Blackrock to Ballyfermot.
This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
We're talking about a group on the Luas yesterday, shouting the odds, chanting anti-mask protesters. And by the way, can I just say that for those of you who are ringing our switch and spamming us and screaming down the phone at our staff, that's why you're not getting on the air. That's why I cut that girl off a couple of minutes ago. Not because of what she hung up eventually. Not because of what she was saying, but I'm not going to be shouted at. And I don't think our listeners should have to listen to me being shouted at. So if you have a coherent argument to put forward, by all means, talk to us, call us, if you're going to be calm and collected. Aoife, your partner is a frontline worker, is that right?
Yeah, he is, yeah.
And you yourself contracted COVID-19?
No, he did.
Oh, he did, sorry, he did.
Yeah.
And how was he and how is he?
Oh, it was horrible, to tell you the truth. He actually didn't know that he had it because he was asymptomatic. But we've two boys, and he was isolated in our bedroom for 2 weeks. We know, the only way of communication he had with our kids was through video calls. Mm-hmm. And it was so nasty. Now, thank God he didn't get it bad. But he's a frontline worker, and just people like that woman really, really boils my blood, because he's working 13-hour shifts a day with COVID patients, getting tested once a week. And there's always a risk he could bring it home to our family. But he's doing it because the hospitals need the staff, like.
Yeah, and as a result of him having it, he was out of work for 2 weeks.
Yeah, he was out of work for 2 weeks, and he didn't even get the full COVID payment, believe it or not. He didn't, because whatever way the forms were signed. So, like, he was out of work, and I was in the healthcare industry as well at that time, and I had to leave work for 2 weeks. And I had to get tested 3 times before I could go back to work. And only now that I'm pregnant, I had to leave work altogether because it was too risky with COVID-19.
I mean, I have to say, I really despair with this whole thing sometimes. I just got somebody sent me a video in a second ago, right? And it says, David Icke is convinced it's all a conspiracy. Could you let Adrian have a listen to this, please, says Wayne. Wayne, would you do yourself a favour and find out a little bit about David Icke, who believes in shape-shifting lizards? And you want me to listen to his opinion on this? No, thank you. No. This is what we're up against. Where am I going now? Michael, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Michael?
Good morning, Adrian. How are you?
Good, thank you. What did you want to say?
I guess in relation to the protesters, like, I kind of get a start. There's a huge divide between people at the moment. It's kind of like you versus him. Like, it's mask people against anti-mask people. Like, it's lost along the way, I think, the integrity of what the protesters are actually initially wanting to protest about. But say, if you look back early on and what the protesters were protesting for, and you had credible people there speaking and giving facts, at the moment it seems to have fizzled out so much that what they're actually wanting to protest about is lost nearly as such, like, and that's no disrespect to the protesters. And even with yourself there at the moment, you made a reference to David Icke, as in, like, look, everybody doesn't need to agree with everybody, but, like,
let me be honest with you. Yeah. I've no problem talking to somebody who has a different opinion. The reason I cut that girl off is she was shouting, and I won't be shouted at. So,
absolutely. I understand where you're coming from with that. That's not my point. A guy messaged in for you to have a listen to the David Icke, and you totally shot it down to the point of...
here, come on, Michael. David Icke, have you seen some of the crap he comes out with? Honest to God, now.
Hear me out, right? There's a certain amount of information that is absolutely... we won't even say the word of what it is. But there is a certain element of the information that if you listen to it, common sense, take your common sense factor of it. If you do a little bit of research on it, you have to see that there is some substance to it. Like, you can't initially just shut down everything just because...
Okay, but is substance as in this is the big man trying to control us? No, I'm not going to listen to that rubbish.
No, look, I don't agree with the certain things that happen at the moment in society with this whole COVID thing. Like, yes, there is a virus there, and yes, it's a deadly virus, but I still don't agree in how it's being managed by the higher authority of our government. Like, there is an air of, with the common sense, that we have to approach this. It doesn't.
And I agree with you, Michael, that if we all had a degree of common sense, we wouldn't be in the situation that we are in. The problem that we have is in our society, we have a very large minority who don't have common sense, and that's why we are where we are.
But there's no, where I think we're lost at the moment with this, Adrian, is there is no common ground here with it. You're asking a certain element of people to do something that they're wholeheartedly disagree with.
Can I tell you, Michael, I don't like this. I don't like what's going on. No more than anybody does.
Exactly. No, but none of us do. But yeah.
Do you think I like the fact that my son and my daughter are out of work? No, I don't. Of course I don't. So I will do anything in my power to get us back to a normal life and get rid of this horrible virus and get Ireland back to where it was.
Well, can I just would say off the record here, right, with this whole thing, Adrian, what we, in my beliefs are, right now, and I hope you think that I'm coming from a common sense point of view here. But we thought that normality was, or for us, we'd say, if we were to look back at this time last year, everybody's looking forward to Christmas. We just come out of Halloween. There was happy times. There is no happy times to look forward to, in my opinion. And I feel like, and this is my opinion, not going to be gospel by any means. I feel we're going to come out of this level 5 lockdown and we're going to have more restrictions in place until whatever the government sees fit for us, which I don't believe in. It should be the government that are making the opinion for the general public as such. We should have an air of common sense to look after our own health. Like, giving it to somebody else to look after, I feel is totally askew at the moment, and it's everywhere. It's like there is no structure to it. It's like it's all over the shop, like, you know.
And if I thought that we, here in Ireland, were dealing with it in a bizarre way compared to the rest of the world, I'd be of a mind to agree with you. But we're not. Even in England, they've been forced into a lockdown again because the bloody thing is running out of control again and filling up hospitals. That's what this all ultimately comes down to.
Can I ask you a question? Like, we'd say it's running out of control in what regard, we'd say?
Okay, you want to talk about, for example, in the UK, hospitals in Britain are filling up at a rate of knots. That's why Boris Johnson finally gave in and announced a lockdown on Thursday. That's why.
Okay, but is it in regards, we'd say, have we got a mass amount of people dying, we'd say? And now, listen, don't get me wrong here, because it
doesn't really matter whether people are dying or not, Michael. The hospitals are filling up with people, taking up hospital beds that can't be used for other people. Whether they're dying or not.
I'm not solely basing my opinion on the volume of death of people here either. Like, as I said, there has to be an air of common sense here too with this, and I just feel there is no common sense here with this, guys.
All right, look, I have to take a very quick break, and there's a lot of messages I still have to play. I'm also going to be talking to a lady who felt a sense of shame because she contracted COVID-19. We'll take a very quick break. We're back in just a moment. It's 11 o'clock across Dublin. Good morning. This is Adrian Kennedy. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks, and this is Laura with Tuesday's top headlines.
Thanks, Adrian. Good morning. Luas bosses have passed on CCTV footage to Gardaí after a group of protesters not wearing face coverings took over part of a tram on the Red Line yesterday. Gardaí say they're aware of footage circulating on social media which shows members of the group shouting at other people on the tram and telling them to take off their masks. There's been more than 120 complaints of people taking drugs, drinking or smoking on board darts this year. Figures from Irish Rail's text alert system shows this activity makes up for over a third of all antisocial behaviour reported. The Chief Medical Officer will tell the Transport Committee today that people arriving into Ireland from abroad should avoid crowds and wear face coverings for a full 14 days, even if they come from a green area. Dr. Tony Holohan will face questions on international travel ahead of the introduction of an EU traffic light system. The focus now is on whether people will be allowed travel home for Christmas. And Americans will vote for their next president today. Current President Donald Trump is trailing rival Joe Biden by over 8% on average in the polls. And now you're up to date on 98.
98 FM's Dublin Talks. Call 6797 981.
And good morning from Adrian Kennedy. Let me play a few more messages just in response to that story. This is Morris.
Morning, Adrian. Yeah, I'm just listening to the topic there. I had to pull over. My God, it's unreal what these people are getting up to, you know. But being an ex-army soldier, the only way to treat these people is with, the disrespect that they're treating the rest of society with. If they have the good coverage of them all, find them all, bring them through the courts, give them the maximum fine, whatever it is, 2,000, or take their dole off them. You know, if they're not out looking for work or applying for jobs online, take their dole off them. If they can go around potentially infecting the rest of the city. But one of the things I would do, I'd bar every one of them off public transport and taxis. I wouldn't let them on anything. And if they want to go anywhere, they can walk. No buses, no trains, no Luas, taxis. I'd even ban them off the Dublin bikes, that they couldn't get on the bikes to cycle around, and that'll teach them a lesson.
All right, Mars, thanks very much indeed. Leo.
Hi, Adrian. Leo here. I hate to say it, I really, really hate to say it, but these people, they are absolutely low life, uneducated trash with no respect for people, life, etc. Something must be done about these people. It really should. Thanks, bye.
All right, thank you very much indeed. This is from Carl.
How are you, Adrian? Just listen to this show at the moment about all these people protesting. The best thing is need to do is, when the guards get their name, check has any of them on COVID payment, or check has anyone on the social welfare. I can guarantee you, say there's 50 of them, or I guarantee you 40 of them. 40 out of 50 is either probably on the social welfare or on the COVID payment. And if they are on the COVID payment, take them off it and take them off the social welfare and see how quick they start wearing masks. That's the only way to do it. They're putting elderly people at danger and other vulnerable people. Tool academies, that's all they are.
All right. Jack has a theory.
Adrian, I was in a centre in Ballymun this morning. There was 12 people in it. I was one of those 12. I was the only one with a mask. I was in Roscommon yesterday in a centre. I said it's probably about the same. And every one of them had a mask on. That speaks for itself. And I'm from Ballymun, so I'm not putting people down, but you know what I'm trying to say.
All right. Gavin sent me this message.
Adrian, why don't you get one of these anti-maskers on the radio and just ask them a simple question? Say, right, you think that the doctors are wrong and everybody's wrong. And ask them, if they found a lump on anywhere on their body, would they go to the doctor to get it seen to, or would they just assume that, like, it's all right, don't worry about it, I mean, you know, it's not cancer, everything's grand? Or would they go to the doctor and listen to the doctor then? You should all be locked up.
Lisa wants to know why the Gardaí didn't board the tram.
Hi, Adrian. Just listening to the debate on the protests yesterday. The thing that's jumping out there is that the guards were on the platform and they did not get onto the Luas. So who's holding the guards accountable? And why did they not get on the Luas? Has anybody contacted them and asked them what was the rationale, or why was the decision made that they didn't get on the Luas? And where was the Luas security as well? You know, because the guards seem to be more focused on, 10 of them at a checkpoint just waving people through, where they could have made a difference yesterday in that situation, and there doesn't seem to be any accountability for them. Thanks.
All right. Siobhan sent me this.
That Jade one is an absolute idiot. My friends are just after burying their father from COVID, so how bloody dare she say that this is just all a hoax? How dare she? What an absolute idiot.
Ali can't believe what she's hearing on the show
There you
today.
go. There's the mentality of these idiots. You can't even have a conversation with the girl because she just shouts over you. She doesn't even want to listen to your opinion, but you have to listen to her because she's making sure she forces her opinion on you. So that's the mentality of these people that you're dealing with. They're all about their opinions and getting their point across and shoving their opinion down people's throat. But nobody else is allowed to have an opinion that differs to them.
All right, and wrap up with this one from Connor.
Adrian, can I just say something? I think by these people listening to your show, and I understand that you have to have stuff to talk about, and you've gotten a lot of traction with this particular conversation, but you can only imagine the conversations that these people are going to have. I'm sure they have COVID is a hoax WhatsApp group, and they're talking about, Adrian had that, they were talking about our video there, everybody was outraged and I was having great crack just listening to them all giving out, that's the kind of conversations that I'm sure they're having between themselves, and by us talking about it all the time, it's just fueling that fire. And I think the only thing you can do is control what you've got going on, whether it be your own, looking after your own family, making sure that your parents and your grandparents don't catch this virus. That's all you can really do. And I think you do have to ignore them, because the more, everybody has a bad day, and when you hear that, you're like, you get frustrated because you're trying to do everything that you possibly can. But I think ignoring them is the only way to deal with it, because they're just idiots. Simple as that, and they're just attention seeking. That's all there is to it.
And one final message that's just come into us, and it says, the media is the virus. That's very insightful. Thanks very much indeed for for sharing this with us. And one final message, somebody who says, very one-sided show this morning. And I would argue with you that what we had on air represents the opinion that came in on our switch today. So there you go. That shows that the people involved in these sorts of protests and this sort of carry-on the Luas, who are spitting bullets on social media about, Kennedy this and 98 FM that, you are a teeny-weeny majority of the decent people here in Ireland trying to get over this horrible thing, put it behind us and get on with our lives. None of us likes what's happening. But most of us with half a brain see the logic of us doing what we're doing at the moment to try and put it behind us. And somebody who certainly wants to see this whole thing behind us is a lady called Amy, who joins me on the line. She was diagnosed with COVID-19 last month and found that the experience brought with it an unwelcome sense of shame. She said, I think in Ireland many people are afraid to get tested because they don't want others to know they might have it. They wonder what those around them will think. COVID is a killer and we don't know how to prevent it other than distancing. But if you don't get tested because you're ashamed or it's an inconvenience, you're putting yourself and others at risk. Amy, good morning to you.
Hi Adrian, how are you?
Welcome to 98 FM. Firstly, how are you?
I'm much better now than I was when I actually wrote that piece that we're talking about.
Okay, you were diagnosed with COVID-19 last month.
Yeah, so the start of October.
Okay, and what was that experience like?
It was a bit surreal, to be honest, because my initial thought was when I got it, it wasn't, who's going to be saying that I've COVID, who's going to be gossiping. I was just so afraid as to who I could have potentially spread it to.
Okay, were you sick from it?
Yeah, I actually did have a bad enough dose, but I'm only 22, I'm fairly healthy, so I would feel really sorry for anyone with an underlying condition or an elderly person. So it is scary.
Okay, now you say you don't know where you got the virus from,
No.
so you would be labelled as community transmission because you've no idea where you contracted it. You were never contacted as a close contact of somebody,
No.
if you know what I mean. So therefore, you would be identified as community transmission. But what you found as a result of telling people that you were diagnosed is kind of shame and rumours.
Yeah, I suppose I'm from a wee town in Cavan, so obviously Cavan has a lot of COVID now, so I'm pretty sure I got it whether it was shopping in a supermarket or spending my 110 minutes in the pub. I'm sure I got it at home, but yeah, just the rumours that came along with it now,
like what? Give us an
nice.
idea of the sort of things that were being said.
So one of the rumours actually was that I was sharing pints in the pub with other people.
Right.
So I think that was the most strange
Sharing
one.
pints. Who shares pints? But you were.
Oh, allegedly, yeah.
Allegedly, yeah.
I know I am from Cavan, but
you're not that tight.
I can fork out for a pint.
Okay,
But,
so that's
yeah,
one, and then other sorts of rumours that were going around.
My brother, he's only 9. Allegedly, he was in school, and he had COVID himself. Allegedly, when he went back to school, he was absolutely healthy. He didn't actually have COVID, but his whole class was asking him about COVID and how he was. They all thought he had it.
And let me ask you this. Are you sorry that you let people know that you had it?
No, because it's a sickness. If you're sick, you like talking to your friends to get over it, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, if
Take
you
your
had, if
mind
you had
off
the
it.
flu, you'd be talking to your friends and, oh, I'm dying, I've got the flu, I'm not well at all. So what's the
Yeah.
difference? Yeah, that's the point. What is the difference? So you happen to have this particular virus, not the flu virus, but this one, and you told people that you had it.
Yeah.
But you'd... I mean, I was interested in one friend of yours that says they were only joking, but they really got to you.
Oh, that was my lowest point of my isolation. When I actually got that message, I had to put my hands in my pockets, go outside to my back garden, and I just bawled with my mask on. It just really got to me.
So
When you're sick,
tell me what
yeah.
this friend said, and this friend subsequently claimed they were only joking. What did they say?
Yeah. It was basically, F you, Amy, because of you, I have to self-isolate for 48 hours. So, clearly that's wrong to begin with, because it was my friend's sibling, so they weren't even a close contact of me.
Mm.
So, yeah, I just lost the plot at that stage. Normally I'd get over something like that, but when you're kind of trapped, I suppose, in your own bedroom for 10 days, things kind of get to you.
So the point of you taking to social media is because of the way in which you were spoken about, rumours spread, all over the fact that you contracted what over 50,000 other Irish people have contracted the COVID-19 virus.
Yeah, it was just... I just had to kind of say it, I suppose. It was actually a Friday night that I wrote that piece. I was so bored, and I actually couldn't watch the Late in my bedroom because I don't have a TV, so I'd nothing to do. So, yeah, I suppose it just all played with my head as well, and for something that is a sickness, it's nothing to be ashamed of.
Mm. No more than you'd be ashamed if you caught the flu.
Yeah. In all fairness, I did, my family and friends were very good to me. I had people run into the shops because I couldn't if I needed paracetamol or anything like that. So it wasn't a case where I could have just got over it myself. I kind of needed that bit of extra help because all my family were restricted as well. So we had to tell people so we could get our shopping done and things like that.
All right, so really the point you're trying to get across here is we need to get rid of this shame factor
the stigma behind it.
Yes, of contracting COVID-19. If you happen to contract it, it doesn't mean you were behaving irresponsibly. You don't know where you got it, and I'm sure as you look back you think to yourself, well, I was behaving responsibly and I still got it.
Yeah, I was wearing my mask, I had the hand sanitizer in my pocket the whole time, but yeah, I still got it. It can happen to anyone. Even the likes of healthcare workers can get it. They've more of a chance than us, and sure, they're not behaving irresponsibly at all.
In fact, I just got a message in, I'll read it to you, from Tracy. It says, there is definitely shame, which is ridiculous. Anyone can catch it. A friend of mine from down the country had it. She actually asked me not to tag her in any articles about it because she didn't want anyone to know that she had it.
Yeah, see, that's where I don't get it, because just say that person, for example, or someone in a similar situation, they might not want anyone to know to have it, and then sure, they could go to the shop and give it to someone else.
And in fact, here's another message. It says, I understand what that girl is saying. I'm just out from isolating from COVID, and I'm worried about going out and back to work. I was out twice since, and I just felt everyone was looking at me and talking about me. It's a weird feeling, and I suffer with anxiety on top of all that, which doesn't help at all.
Yeah, I would get that now. I think, in Ireland, we've always had this kind of... just this aspect where we need God forbid what the neighbours think, and like you're the talk of the town, and it's always been like that.
Yeah, and I know we're great. I know we as a nation are great gossipers and all of that, and we are. But when I hear people who have gotten this, in fact, I'm getting a couple of messages from people saying something quite similar, that they have been made to feel a sense of shame because they had it.
Yeah, like even I'm sure if a child had it, like they could be teased going back to school.
Right, so we need to get rid of this shame and, you know, tittle-tattling about people because they may have contracted this virus.
Yeah, like I think what everybody needs to do is look out for each other, more or less, rather than spreading the word, stories getting twisted. It's just not fair when somebody is actually sick. The last thing they want to hear is...
You're being talked about down the village.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's it.
All right, but look, I appreciate you speaking to us, Amy. And I'm glad to hear that you're over the worst. You don't have any effects of long COVID or anything like that, have you?
I would suffer from fatigue now. About 6 o'clock, like I try not to be conking out, and I would have muscle pains as well. But like I am one of the lucky ones. Like people, like elderly people, vulnerable people, like they're the ones that we would need to focus on more. Like they're obviously suffering more than me.
Absolutely. All right, let me just wrap this up with a WhatsApp voice note that's just come in to us from Lizzie sent this.
Hi, Adrian. While the most part, I absolutely agree that there should be no shame whatsoever in catching the virus. However, I do feel like if people are waiting for tests or waiting for the results and they continue to go out and they continue to socialise, like that's completely irresponsible, because if you think of the statistics around, it took, one person could spread it to potentially 57 people. Like if you were someone who knew or were waiting for the test results of something like HIV, AIDS back in the 80s and the 70s, and you went around and managed to cost that many people's potential lives, like potential health, overall health, then I think, if we look at it, how seriously that was at the time when there was no cure and there was no vaccine, if you're waiting, you should be isolating, and if you have it, then of course it's not your fault, and you should be treating it as a serious illness that could potentially cost somebody else's life. But I don't think anyone who has it, who's behaving responsibly, should be ashamed whatsoever. It's nobody's fault. It's not intentionally spread from one person to the other.
No,
Anyway,
it
thank you.
isn't. Amy, your message to people listening now who might hear, especially here in Dublin, when we still have fairly high case numbers.
Yeah.
When we think back to March, we were all saying, I don't know anyone who's gotten this. As this has gone on, we're starting to know of more and more and more people who have got it. Your message to people who find out that somebody they know has gotten this virus, what do you say to them?
Well, I'd say, like, I told people myself that I told my close contacts I was getting tested before I told them I was positive, so I had everybody well warned. But I would say the minute you find out that you could be a potential close contact, do stay inside. It's better to be safe than sorry, because as that caller was saying there, like, you could risk someone their life.
Absolutely. All right, Amy, I wish you well. I'm glad to hear you're on the mend, which is good news. And thanks very much indeed for talking to us, Amy.
Thanks very much, Adrian.
Thank you. All right, you can check out her article, by the way, on the journal.ie. People need to know, says this message, if someone has COVID. My friend's sister had it a while back, and she didn't want anyone to know because she was still going about her business, going to the shops, into Henry Street shopping. So there is that side of it. People not wanting anyone to know that they have it because they don't want to isolate. Yeah. There is that, and this is crazy. This is from Kelly.
I had my sister-in-law flip out at me because my son had to get tested due to a close contact in school. Like it was my fault that she was put at risk. It was a different tune the following week when our son had symptoms and had to get tested.
Yeah, different tune indeed. Anyway, all right, you're listening to 98 FM's Dublin Talks. After the break, you don't want to miss this, especially if you have children on TikTok.
The sound of the city, from Stony Batter to Stepaside.
This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
And we're here till midday today. 1 in 7 young people have said it is easy for individuals to be abusive online, according to a new survey out in the UK. But I want to ask you a question, and I have a reason for asking this question, and it'll all become clear in a second. If you have kids, are they on TikTok? And what age are they? Just send me a WhatsApp in answer to that question right now, and send it to 0877 98 98 98. 0877 98 98 98. If you have kids, are they on TikTok? And what age are they? Send me a WhatsApp to 0877 98 98 98. I'm joined on the line by a woman whose 14-year-old son was murdered by someone who groomed him while they were gaming online. Lauren, good morning to you.
Good morning, Adrian.
Lauren, tell me about your eldest son, Breck.
Well, he loved gaming and computing and science and technology. Those were all of his passions, and he wanted to be a pilot. He was gaming with friends from school, and that felt like a safe environment. I knew the boys. They were from the neighborhood. But unfortunately, one of them came into contact with someone they didn't know who then ran the gaming group, and this person was a predator. Some of the boys had gamed with him for up to 3 years, and they didn't feel he was a danger because he was a teenager like themselves. So I think, just when this happened 6 years ago, people weren't aware of grooming. They weren't aware of the signs, what to look for, and what to do. So I now have set up Breck Foundation, which is a charity to try to bring about the education, the awareness, but also to empower young people to make safer choices for themselves online, because as a parent, it is difficult to see what they are doing every minute while they're spending online.
So your 14-year-old got to know this person through online gaming. It was actually somebody that he had met, is that right?
They hadn't ever met in person. No one had met the predator.
But was introduced by friends, is that right?
Introduced online, yes, by friends. Okay. So he didn't find him sort of on his own. He was introduced, so it felt like a safe format because he was brought into the group by his friends. I immediately thought that it was a creepy old guy, because that's what you sort of imagine a predator is, because he had a very controlling and manipulative way that he ran the gaming group. And when I questioned Breck about it, he said, no, he's 17. Some of the boys were 15, 16, 17, so they never thought of another teenager as being predatory. And so, we need to recognize predators can be any age. They can be lying about their age. They can be catfishing. And this predator was catfishing, pretending that he was running a huge, tech company in New York, and he was mentoring them. They were learning to code, they were learning to encrypt. They looked up to him, and he built all of this through their shared interests and tried to, entice them, pretending he was a genuine friend. Breck was a clever boy. I still can't believe he fell for it. That's the power of a predator.
Yeah, this is the power of the predator. This guy, this was back in 2014, and this guy who was 18 at the time, Luas was his name, and he lured your young fella to his flat through promises, as you said, of a lucrative job opportunity and a fun time gaming together, and he murdered your son.
Yeah. And I don't understand why, never will. I think he was attracted to Breck. I think he liked Breck. I think he thought he was a clever boy. But unfortunately, this predator was a psychopath, and he was interested in radicalization. He was interested in Syrian-style beheadings, and he had a really dark, monstrous side that no one recognized within the gaming group.
You were concerned before this tragic incident where your son was lured to his death, essentially.
Yeah.
But you had concerns before that about what he was up to, and your concerns kind of fell on deaf ears, is that right?
They did. I think none of us at the time knew that much about grooming. I literally worked at a school, and I spoke to other teachers and other support staff. I spoke to school vicar, school nurse, parents, friends, and I would say straight out, I think Breck is being groomed. And nobody knew what to suggest. And unfortunately, I didn't do the right thing. I mean, I tried to speak with Breck. I spoke with the other parents. I forbade Breck at one point, which just pushed it underground, and I even went to the police and reported that I felt he was being groomed. I didn't know what the intended outcome was. At one point, I thought he wanted Breck for something sexual, then I thought he was radicalizing them, then I thought he was going to try to get them to do an illegal hacking. And I think that's what confused people, is it made me seem confused. But one of the things we teach now is, we don't need to know what the intended outcome is if we can stop the grooming before we get to that outcome. So recognizing those signs of isolation, the change of personality, the manipulation, the control, the secrecy, all of that was there. And I recognized that I just couldn't get anyone to believe me. And if I could do things over, I would push the school to help more. I would call the police every single day because, in fact, this predator had a record. And when the police didn't believe me, they didn't check the records.
But the reality of it is, and this is the bit that parents maybe don't get sometimes, is that the grooming was most likely happening while he was gaming in his own home.
Absolutely. I mean, we think about, we wouldn't send our children out to a park to play with strangers, but we are allowing them to engage with strangers online, and that can be just as dangerous, if not more. This predator, was subtle, gradual. It was over a year that Breck was groomed, but he built that relationship so that he got Breck to do something out of character, sneak, to his flat. Breck never did that. That was the first time he had snuck out. He lied about where he was going. He wasn't that kind of kid, but that's what a predator will do. They have ways of building that relationship through their shared interest, turning me into the bad guy, and that is a huge sign. Make the parents and the family to be out the ones that are controlling the bad guys. And Breck stopped being open and honest with me. At the beginning, he told me everything, and things became more secretive. So I wasn't the bad guy. I wanted the best for Breck, but that's what a predator will lure with promises of something better than what the parents can offer.
Out of all of this tragedy, you set up an organisation called the Breck Foundation, empowering families to stay safer online through education and digital resilience, is what it says on your Twitter. But a post that you've put up just recently might shock a lot of people. And it says, the increase in children spending time online this year, as predicted, has led to a 45% increase in online child sex abuse. Tell me more about that. 45%.
Well, I mean, I think the sad thing is, we've had a lot of issues with the pandemic, but one of the issues with our children is that they've been pushed to spend more time online. And predators use that space. They aren't just engaging with one or two children. They will engage with as many people until they find one that sends that photo, that engages in a sexual activity, that might fall prey to radicalization. They will try until they find someone. And so I think it's a numbers game for them. And they're, with millions of users, I think it's 7 million users on TikTok, it might start off just like with Breck, fun and games, having a good time. And then those tables turn. So, whilst we don't want to scare parents, that's not going to help, or children, we almost just need to be empowered and strengthen ourselves so that we don't let these creeps, these, bad people get away with this. Most people are good. All the strangers that we might engage with online, most of them are probably just having a good time like the rest of us. But there is a percentage that will constantly be trying to find children who are unaware of these sorts of dangers. And
okay, now I asked our listeners just a couple of minutes ago about, whether or not their kids are using TikTok, and an awful lot are. An awful lot of them, my 9-year-old, my 10-year-old, all young enough children. Whoa, that was a sigh. A sigh of despair, that was.
Well, I mean, the thing is they're just at mature level, they're not ready to engage with strangers online. They're not ready to have that responsibility to look after themselves.
Okay, but we all know that the social media craze of 2020 with lockdown and people stuck at home, and again people this November stuck at home here in Ireland and in the UK where you are, we're back stuck at home again, although slightly different in that schools are still open. But it has been a fun craze. You know, some of the stuff that has come out of TikTok. What are the risks of young people, and like I said, you sound like you're despairing, of 9, 10, 11, 12 being on TikTok and putting up funny little videos? Is that not all it is?
Unfortunately, that isn't all it is, and that is the good bit. That's the fun bit, the creative and engaging and enjoying. And I think the more that parents interact and are online on these platforms with the children, the safer that they will be. But, as we've heard so many times, the algorithms, push predators towards certain type of activities. And even when you look at eating disorders, if you look at depression, those algorithms, as soon as our children engage with something that's not happy, clappy, or super safe, they then get pushed more and more of that content and more of those sorts of followers. And I think that's what we really need to be aware of, that, it's not our children that are doing something wrong. They might just be curious, but the second they start engaging with different types of content, it will be pushed onto them. And is that really what we want to influence our children?
For parents who are listening and their kids have posted some funny, cute little dancing videos or whatever the case may be on TikTok, what have they to watch out for? How do they know that their kids are being contacted?
If it were me and I could do it over, I would have access to all of my children's accounts when they're young, when they're that sort of age. With Breck, he was 14 and he was so responsible. I can't tell you, being the older brother of triplets, he was independent, responsible, clever. I didn't have access to his passwords and to his, devices because I trusted him. But the problem was I didn't recognize the power of these predators. So I think if parents are going to allow their children on devices that they are paying for, by the way, parents are in charge of the devices. We pay for them. We pay the bill. Then parents should be able to access all of the content at any given moment. Up to a certain age, when you make an agreement, I guess, together as a teenager that you are going to let them, spread their wings a bit. But to just let our children engage with anything that they want when they're not even the right age. I mean, you're meant to be 13 to do social media. Even that, a lot of children aren't ready for that sort of engagement. Yet it's fun, it's exciting, and everybody else is doing it. So I guess my recommendation would be for parents to be on those platforms with their children, with access to their accounts, so that they can see if any direct messages come in, if anyone's asking them to show body parts, if anyone's telling them what to do. Parents need to be able to see that and not find out the hard way.
Okay, I've a lot of parents who've messaged us in the last few minutes. My kids are on TikTok. It's all perfectly innocent. People making a mountain out of a molehill here. Are these naive parents? What message have you got for them?
They are. Maybe they're the lucky ones. And in fact, not everyone is going to be hurt in the way that Breck was. But I have seen two girls within my own family now, one go downhill with an eating disorder this year because she was pushed content from TikTok that had basically competitions about who could eat the least. Well, if you have a teenager going through exams, then loss of exams, loss of school, loss of control, kicked out of school in their formative years and all of the years that they need to be there. And then all of a sudden this content is coming towards them that, you can be a better person, healthier by stopping eating and going on fasting diets. I have seen a teenager lose 2 stone in 2 months, and she's sick. And that is because of these videos. And I know another girl who's been pushed depressive posts. Once you start showing interest in sad posts or sad songs or sad skits, all of a sudden that's pushed on you. And that has not helped your depression. And so I've seen it within my work. I've seen it in my own family. And yes, sometimes it's fun. It makes me laugh. I think it was Google. I saw some funny dancers just yesterday on the news. And it's great fun. But we need to be aware. And I think, the more aware we are of what our children are doing and what is out there, because every time a new app comes out, those apps are not ready for consumption. Sometimes there's blips and ways that predators can reach our children with direct messages without us knowing. It's important that we just are aware of what our children are doing.
Right. It is a sad state of affairs that a tragic incident in your world and your life with the murder of your 14-year-old led you and kind of pointed your life in a direction that you've had to set up this organisation to enlighten people that the internet is a very dangerous place for young people and we need to keep an eye on them.
Well, I think my goal was that I wanted something good to come out of Breck's death. And if somebody had talked to me about grooming and taught me what I know now, or if somebody had listened to me, or if I had, found the right resources, believe me, I blame myself every single day for not being a better parent when I was a good parent. I am a good parent, not perfect by any means. And I just think, all we need to do is be aware so that when we see those signs, when we see our children sort of withdrawing a bit, when we see them being over-sexualized, do we really want our children dancing to songs talking about sexual actions when they're only, little? I just don't want that for my children. I want a more holistic, happy, safe, healthy, outlook. So I think that is why I set up the charity. Thank goodness I had volunteers to help, but it's a hard job because sometimes I just want to, forget about it all. But, this TikTok panorama show that, it just highlights that, it's not going away. There will always be new and exciting platforms, and there will be predators that find their way through. And so it's our job. TikTok's not going to parent our children for us. They're not going to protect them like we would. So we need to be the ones that are actually, I'm not saying forbidding, I'm not saying take away, but we are the ones that need to set the parameters. These are rites of passage. We don't give our children, he'll go ahead and start drinking when you're in primary school. No, every step of the way, they're allowed to drive at a certain age, vote at a certain age, and all of a sudden with social media, we just let them in whatever age they are when they're not ready. They need to be taught real life lessons about how to keep safe online and to understand what a healthy relationship looks like. This isn't just online. It sort of covers their whole world. Not to fall for coercive control, to make sure that they understand they respect their own bodies, they look after themselves and look after each other. All of those principles, if those are in place and we are monitoring what our children are doing online, then that's the best we can hope for, because we cannot count on these platforms as much as they say they have safety parameters put in place. They don't care about our kids. They care about the money. Show them the money and they will provide engaging apps.
Let me just, before I let you go, Lauren, play this message that I've been asked to play. This just come in from Will.
Hey Adrian, just want to say fair play to that woman for being so brave, coming on, telling her story. It was shocking when she got to the point of that the son actually was killed, but going to be checking more on her son's online contact, and thanks again for that woman. Thanks, Adrian. Cheers.
All right, Will, thank you very much indeed. And that's what you want.
Sweet.
That's what you want.
It is. I'm not asking anybody to, change every single thing they do in their life. Just change one thing. Be more aware, and also think about who you want to influence our children. Do we want TikTokers who swear and dance sexually when they're 8 years old, or do we want nice stuff for them? And I think we want the best for our kids, and it's not easy parenting, believe me. I still have my triplets that I'm looking after.
No, nobody said it was easy, and anybody who thinks it is living in a dream world.
Yes.
Lauren, I really appreciate you talking to us. Once again, your organisation, and people can find you on online, ironically, on social media and so on, is the Breck Foundation, BRECK, if you want to look up more information. But I appreciate...
We'd love to come visit you guys in Dublin when we're allowed to travel again. So.
Well, indeed. We look forward to seeing you over here, hopefully in 2021. Lauren, thanks very much indeed for talking to us.
Thanks, Adrian.
Thank you.
Care.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. We'll take a quick break. On the way after that break, parents who let their kids go on TikTok. Are you worried about it? Does it concern you? Or do you think it's all just pure innocent fun?
The sound of the city from Drumcondra to Dorky.
This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
Are your kids on TikTok? And if so, do you think it's a harmless platform? Or do you worry about the content that they're seeing? Does it bother you that they're posting stuff online? Call me now on 6797981. Now, Sarah, your 8-year-old has TikTok, but on your phone.
Yeah, that's right. I let her get TikTok on my own device during this year, just for everything that was going on, and like they weren't seeing their friends and stuff. So I would monitor like who sees our stuff and who she sees, and she'd probably have it once a week for 15 minutes to make a few videos, and then her little friends from school can see it and she can see their videos. But I manage it, like I can see who's looking at her stuff, I can see what she's doing. I wouldn't be comfortable with letting her have it on her own personal device and not having any access to it or anything like that. I can understand the concern there.
And if she puts up, you said if she has it once a week, she makes a couple of videos and puts them up, can the world and his granny see them?
No, like there's, you can have it private or you can have it public. Like, so not everybody.
Do you have it private?
Yeah. She can only just add her friends that she knows and stuff. Like, not just everybody on the planet can see what she's doing.
Okay, so when she puts a little video up, it's just her couple of friends who are on it as well that can actually see it?
Yeah, like I can see people who can like her stuff and who follow her on it. I haven't come across anybody strange, to be honest.
But who follows her?
Just like our friends out of our class and just friends of ours like that around the same age.
So how many followers would she have?
Probably about 8 to 10, I'd say.
8 to 10. And is the profile set to public?
Private.
It's set to private, okay. So it's only those 6 or 7 people who are all friends of hers who can actually see what she's doing?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, for a lot of people, maybe not in your situation, but for a lot of people, one of the reasons for posting a little video up on TikTok is so that loads of people will love it. Loads of people will like the videos that you're making.
Yeah.
That's not your motivation?
Oh, no, definitely not. Like, as I say, it was more just for the situation that we're in now and being able to see our friends and have a little bit of fun. But there's not much else that they could really do at this time, you know.
And do you ever see a day that you'd let her just off with it and do it herself?
Well, she'd always be with me. Like, she'd be just sit in the next room to me and she'd show myself and her nanny and stuff, like the videos, the little kiddie videos that she'd be making, like with colours and stuff like that.
So you've no safety concerns, because you heard me talking to that lady a while ago and I told her that we were getting loads of messages from parents whose kids are using TikTok, and she sighed in disbelief.
Yeah, no, I understand. That's awful what happened to that lady. But as I say, my child's at an age where I can see what she's doing. Our profile is only on my actual phone, so I have complete control over everything what she's doing and I can see everything, you know.
All right, Sarah, thanks very much indeed. My daughter, 14 years of age, is on TikTok, says this message. Both myself and my wife will randomly ask for her phone and go through it to check. The way we've put it to her is, it's not her we don't trust, it's everyone else we don't trust. And until we think she's old and responsible enough, we will continue to do so. Aoife, you're on 98 FM. Hi, Aoife.
Morning, Adrian. How are you?
Good, thank you.
First of all, can I just say I actually came across Breck's story before. I watched it on the telly, and my heart goes out to Lauren. I think she's incredibly strong and brave, and an incredible mother for doing what she's doing.
Absolutely, and very, very strong, and a great speaker as well about the whole issue.
That's exactly what I meant. Yeah.
Okay, now, she sighed in disbelief when I told her that we were getting loads of messages from loads of parents about loads of children who are using TikTok regularly. And I'm sure you heard her. She went...
Yeah. Yeah, I heard her, yeah.
Now, your 11-year-old has an account.
Yeah, well, Ger will probably tell you there, like, when I was messaging him there a few minutes ago, I said, no, I'm not coming on, no, it gets late, no, not coming on. I was like, oh, come on. So I'm terrified about it.
What are you worried about getting slated for?
Because my child's online, and I know the responses that are going to come in. So, basically, this is a topic that scares the absolute bejesus out of me. kids online and all this crack. But my 11-year-old, now it's a joke in my house. I always say I have an 11-year-old teenager because she does have the mentality of like a 14, 15-year-old. She'd be quite an old
head on young shoulders.
Yes. Because to be honest, I raised her that way. Not to be an old lady, but just to have cop on. I'm all for cop on and
okay, but she's 11 and she's on TikTok. Does she put up videos? I assume she does, otherwise you wouldn't be on it. And are they public videos?
Yeah. This is where I'm deflated.
Does she get lots of people viewing them?
Yeah. Yeah,
and
she does.
Lots of likes, and does she get many comments?
Yeah.
And this is where the problem is.
No, she does. Now, first of all...
Sorry, Aoife, to cut across you. Describe the sort of videos that she puts up.
Lots of herself made putting makeup on, or doing the little dances that are going on with the most popular songs at the moment. You know, the way the popular dance going along with the popular song. You know, everyone does that kind of thing. She does that, or she does a few maybe little dances with her mates. So it's mainly like the little dances, or applying makeup, or doing something with her hair.
And do you watch or look at or pay attention to any comments that are made on her posts?
Any comments that go through to her TikTok, I get notified on my phone. So my phone is constantly beeping with notifications. It drives me nuts.
Do you read them all?
Not all of them, but I do go through them occasionally, yeah. I do, and I'll go through a few, and if there's a couple there I don't like, I'll block them.
Does it worry you? But it obviously does. You said it
scares the absolute life out of me, and I've actually threatened this child. Like, no, I mean threatened this child, saying, don't you dare reply to private messages. Don't you even think about replying to private messages. You don't know who you're talking to. I've like 14-year-old girl could be a 30-year-old man online. You don't know who you're talking to. It's so dangerous. You better be careful. You have to be careful on this. It's like getting into a car that walks past you on the street. It's like, yeah, man, I know. You've been through all this. I know. So far, so good.
Okay,
so far.
So far, so good. That lady, Lauren's young fella, was 14 years of age when he was murdered. Killed.
Yeah, and I've watched other programmes about similar stories about that. But
stay there for 1 second, if you can, Sarah. Aoife, I want to have a listen to this from Sarah.
Adrian, I was shocked when my niece, who's 7, told me she was learning a TikTok dance. Now, I was a bit shocked because I'm on it, and now most of the stuff I see is people are like, if you're over 18, stay, if not, go away. And like, there's some things about, I don't want to go into it now, but it's like, it's not harmful to me, but I wouldn't want my 7-year-old niece seeing this. So I couldn't understand why her friends had their own, page and all on it. It's just, I don't agree with it. Young kids, you need to be the appropriate age to be on that, because there's stuff on that parents cannot filter. Once they look at it once, all the stuff comes in, because I can tell you now, when you look at one video in your For You page, it constantly keeps up. It is dangerous, I'm telling you now, just for younger people.
All right, and this message is from Tammy.
I have a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I think I'm a bad mother for not letting them have a phone or access to any of them apps.
Thank you.
I hope they'll thank me when they're older, but like, the internet is dangerous for an adult. Like, it's only like 100 times dangerous for a child. Like, it's just not safe at all.
All right, Tammy, and one final message. Think about this for the day. The greatest invention ever made for paedophiles was social media. Parents need to be as vigilant as they can. Take that thought with you for the day. Keep an eye on the kids on online, and particularly on apps like TikTok, because you don't, especially if their pages are public, you don't know who's watching, and you don't know in what way they're going to groom your child. Thank you for listening today. Back again tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Barry Dunn is on the way with some great music lined up in the next hour, like these.
It's not about the money. We don't need your money. Used to be giants. When did we start?
98 FM.